Yeah, and Equipoise, by the way, is not prescribed to anybody. It is not,
No,
at least here in the U.S., it's not FDA approved,
no,
right?
it's a veterinary drug. Let's get that. Hence the name
Equa.
equine,
Yeah.
horses. Anabolic is 100, androgenic is 50. So
Okay.
it's attractive profile from a point of view of low sides. Deca is 125 to 37, so slightly less immediately stressful, slightly better on the anabolic side if you want to use those markers as guidelines. And I would say that actually reflects when you're using it. Deca's issues aren't instantaneously physical.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast with Dave Crosland. I'm Scott McNally, and all of our programming is brought to you by you, the people of Patreon. Thank you very much for your support. We've got a couple Patreon questions today. Leave questions over there. I'm going to put up a new thread after I record this show. We are brought to you by evalbloodanalysis.com. If you're in the UK, well, you're on gear, then you definitely need to get your labs done. But you should get your labs done anyway, and you can do that through Dave at evalbloodanalysis.com. We're brought to you by Strom Sports Nutrition. Check them out in the UK or the US for great health stacks, especially if you're on cycle. I'm taking the Thrombo Max right here. In fact, I got to take my Thrombo Max because I forgot to today already. We're also brought to you by supplementsource.ca. For Canadians, they have great deals that change week to week. And TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK to get 10% off all your basic bodybuilding supplements. They have high-quality protein, creatine, intra-workout, stuff like that. Dave, you look terrible, man. What's going on?
I feel fucking terrible.
What's wrong? What's going on?
My day yesterday started at 5 a.m.
Okay, fair enough.
It ended about 1 a.m.
What?
And then
what happened?
It started again today about 5 a.m. So at this moment,
did you go to a rave party?
No, one is rather tired. You know what? I even got some new car parts today, and I'm not even excited about them. I'm that tired.
Oh, jeez. Why? What did you do? What was so busy about yesterday?
I had to get up early and sort of crack on to work because I had to drive to Oxford at 10 o'clock.
Crack on.
That ended up being 6 hours to get down there. Then it was like 3 hours of work, turn around, come straight back with night closures and everything else that seems to happen in this country now. Got home just after midnight. And then I had to sort a few things before I went to bed. And then I had to get back up and try and cram 2 days work into one. Oh. So at this point, I'm a bit...
So we can take advantage of Dave and his weakened state today.
There will be a lot of yawning today, much more than normal.
All right, well, listen, I've got a topic for us. And this was based off of a listener question over on Patreon. And we, of course, have all of our listener questions, Dave. We have a lot of listener questions today. The topic is Equipoise versus Nandrolone. That's Nandrolone, period. You could call it, DECA, NPP. Equipoise versus Nandrolone for muscle gains. I think it'll be an interesting conversation because I know you stand on one side of that fence and I stand on the other. Yeah. So, I mean, for anybody who's new, you're an Nandrolone fan. You prefer DECA any day of the week, right?
No, terrible drug. Hate it. Would never use it.
Oh, so I'm an EQ fan, personally. I found that for me, Equipoise was an absolute game changer, and there's a lot of people who agree with me. But here's the deal, man. First time I ran it, Dave. Yeah?
5 milligrams of Anavar. That's all you ever need.
That's all you ever need. Yeah, well, We're talking for hardcore bodybuilding purposes here. This is not tier 2 plus.
7 milligrams. I mean, I think if you looked at the two drugs non-scientifically and just looked at how you feel and the progress you get on them.
Yeah.
They do seem to be very, very similar in how people actually feel, in the sense of muscular gain, strength gain and everything. I would say personally that Nandrolone has the slight edge from an anabolic point of view over EQ. EQ has some immediate disadvantages. One being... Well, one's a positive and a negative, which is the estrogen side of things, because it is a very impressive anti-estrogen, but can be a little bit too much so. And the other thing is the blood thickening. But having said that, DECA is much more impacting from a health point of view long term. So you've got the cardiovascular risk with DECA, you've got the memory issues with DECA, and you've got the immediate, which seems to be more common these days and never used to be, is the mental health side of things. More and more people are reporting depression episodes with DECA, which no one ever used to mention. So I don't know if that's just because they didn't say anything, or it didn't happen, or what. I really can't. Or it's just that there's a bigger pool of users now, so you get a more broad spectrum range of sides. I don't know, but so yeah, I don't think. I personally still lean slightly over towards DECA, but if I'm being serious and not taking the piss, I would say that from an actual results point of view, the drugs are quite similar. I mean, one of the downsides to DECA is it is a bit slow. It is a bit of a long term. It's not DECA, sorry, EQ is. It is a bit slow.
Yeah.
You know, it is a bit of a long term. And obviously, you do have the fast acting version of MPP with Nandrolone if you want to go that route. So there is some variety there you can play with. So, I mean, but yeah, to me, DECA's got the edge, but it's not huge. It's not huge. And EQ does offer some unique little properties that can be very useful depending on the circumstances of which you're applying it. So
let me ask you this. Do you know offhand, or do you maybe have notes somewhere about the anabolic-androgenic ratio of both EQ and DECA? I know that I'm just dropping that on you. I thought you might have something on your computer somewhere.
I can find it very quickly. Okay. What I do have, I mean, off memory, I think DECA's 50 androgen and about 130, 140 anabolic. So it's actually quite an attractive profile that way.
50 androgenic, so testosterone being 100 to 100.
100 to 100,
so half as androgenic as testosterone, and then 1.5 times as anabolic.
Yeah, it's not that literal, but it gives you a guide. I mean, originally the profiles were done on just its androgenicity compared to its own anabolic potential.
Oh, okay.
And then they changed, all done in rats as well. Then they changed it. It was prostate was the androgenic effect, and a muscle in the hip was the anabolic effect marker. Okay. And originally it was like 1 to 2, 1 to 1.1, and it was, anabolic against androgenic within that compound. And then what they said is they wanted a better sort of comparison for actual overall strength of the drug. So that's when we started getting the higher numbers. So of stuff. Okay. But it's widely recognised now that this is just a rough guide and shouldn't be taken as a literal comparison. But it does give you an idea of what you're looking at, what sort of you're playing at with that drug. Where's the fuck's Bolden on the other side of the night? Here we go. So, anabolic is 100, androgenic is 50. So it's attractive profile from a point of view of low sides versus potential.
Yeah.
Let me find Nandrolone.
I found Equipoise to work for a couple female competitors that they didn't do well with DHTs. I've worked with some girls who, in fact, you know what? I'll tell you what, man, something very interesting, Dave. One girl that I work with long term now, she never produced estrogen. Like, she always had low estrogen. She had been on the pill since she was just a kid. She was raised as a dancer, and highly controlled menstruation and all that as she was a child. So you come off of that. Like, she never produced good hormones. She never responded well to Anavar. We got her on a really good hormone replacement program now. And believe it or not, man, now she's doing great with just a low dose of, I think it was like 5 milligrams of Anavar that we're using at the time, with it bumping the test up just a tiny bit. But she's done in the past, before all that, she had done really good with EQ as a growth compound with just a tiny bit of test mixed in to.
And I both EQ and DHEA are generally well tolerated by females. I mean, DHEA has been prescribed to women for decades.
Yeah, and Equipoise, by the way, is not prescribed to anybody. It is not,
No,
at least here in the U.S., it's not FDA approved,
no,
right?
It's a veterinary drug. Let's get that. Hence the name Equine.
Yeah.
Horses.
Yeah.
Yes, but you know what? DHEA is 125 to 37, so slightly less immediately stressful, slightly better on the anabolic side if you want to use those markers as guidelines. And I would say that actually reflects when you're using it. DHEA's issues aren't instantaneously physical. EQ's issues are a little bit more instantaneously physical. Not instantaneously, but they are of the time period of usage.
Yeah.
Whereas DHEA's physical impacts are more long-term development of issues around the heart and memory. So, yeah, I would say that those readings do actually sort of fairly well pan out in the reality of what the drugs do and how you react to them. But yeah, they're very comparable.
Yeah. Yeah. It just got me thinking about Equipoise. Now, I've got an idea for you. Now, here's an advanced idea, cycling wise. Just through my experience, fourth, fifth cycle, sixth cycle. Okay, so third or fourth cycle, I did test in D-ball, right? I'm going way back in the memory banks here. This is like 2005, 2006. Did test in DHEA.
Scott?
Yes.
1976. Come on.
Yeah, that's actually the year I was born, believe it or not. So here's the deal. Test DHEA, right? I've talked about that. Then just higher dose, all test, terrible side effects with acne from that. Then from there, I was like, well, why don't I try EQ? Test EQ. I was highly disappointed at, I think I had done in the past 500 tests, 400 DHEA. Now I'm doing 500 tests, 400 EQ. I wrote DHEA off for a number of years after that. But then later, I came back to it and I dosed it high. And when I dosed it high, I got tremendous gains off of it down the road from there. And when I say high, it was like 1.25 grams a test, 800, 700 EQ, somewhere in there. Then down the road from that, I recognized, well, what if, and here's the mind-breaking idea, what if we combined them both together in the same cycle? Test with high-dose EQ and a small push of NPP for the first 8 weeks. I loved that cycle, man. That was my all-time best growth cycle.
I'm not surprised it was fucking 2.5 gram of gear.
just about. Yeah, I was like, I think like, yeah, it was at my highest dosing. That was for sure. I think you can do that less though. And I have with clients, swapping the dosing down and even changing the ratios. Some people, they might do better with, DHEA. They might do great with it, right? So what if we lead into the DHEA with a little bit of EQ, versus the other way around?
Yeah, and I would say that from a progress point of view, if you're looking for drugs from a progress point of view, they are quite interchangeable. And if you don't get on with DHEA because it makes you feel like you want to slap, you don't want to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
Then EQ would be a viable alternative on the same pitch. If you struggle particularly bad with high hemoglobin because you've got other driving factors and the EQ is the straw that breaks the camel's back with it, then DHEA is equally a good alternative either way. Just obviously you do have an estrogen management concern with DHEA, which you don't have with EQ. Well, you do, but it's the opposite end of it, where with EQ it's about estrogen being too low rather than adding to it, which DHEA does provide.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do think they're quite interchangeable compounds from a point of view of what you're getting out of it. When I look at drugs, I look at the goal of the individual.
Right.
Then I look at the drugs that help achieve that goal.
Right.
So I've got a list of drugs, and I've got, this is what the person wants to achieve. So, right, well, that's no good, that's no good, that's no good. But that's, yep. Then I look at the environment in which I'm putting those drugs into. So this is the person, their ability for adherence and communication, and their health.
Yeah.
So, if someone's got very high levels of body fat, therefore high levels of aromatase, you're probably going to lean away from heavily aromatizing drugs because it's going to be an absolute nightmare to manage. If someone's got severe sleep apnea, already struggles with hemoglobin, well, that might knock EQ off the list then, and oxy's off the list then, because we know they have a drive in those areas. And so that's basically what you do. You start with this big long list, cut off what doesn't suit the goal, cut off what doesn't suit the person or the environment, and then what's left is what you build your cycle with.
Yep, I'm down with that.
And there can be a few ways of doing that. And I think one of the things that you need to remember that when we talk about putting into the environment, it's not just like the physical stature of the person or their physical properties, or even just their health markers. It's also them as an individual. How good are they at following a diet? How good are they at being able to understand what they're experiencing? Because we've both spoke to people and ended up needing an hour and a half conversation to just get to the bottom of what the actual symptoms are that they're experiencing, because they're not good at telling you what's going on.
Yeah.
So, if a drug's got complex management, you want someone who can deal with that complexity in the point of view of feed you the information you need to know to be able to manage that. So, there's lots of factors that play into it.
Yeah. What would be one thing I've heard you say before is that the problem with DHEA isn't the side effects. The problem with DHEA is the management. How would one get into, if they were using Nandrolone, how would one get into that and manage it properly?
So there are some side effects that you need to be wary around, stuff like the heart implications that DHEA provides, but that is a long-term thing and very much not only a dose exposure but a length of exposure related issue. So that can still be managed by limiting, the periods of time which you expose. So DHEA does two primary issues with DHEA. Well, three. One is dopamine transport proteins, which results in 1, low mood, and 2, high prolactin.
Right.
Offset that in the first place by taking P5P, form of B6, which increases dopamine transport proteins. So we have an excess to start with, which means the reduction then is not significantly impacted.
And you said too, you like to start that before the cycle.
Well, here's the reason. It's much easier to build that up when things are not being suppressed than it is to try and recover it when they're already suppressed.
I like that idea.
So imagine it like a race. It's easier to get off early and get a head up and get a lead than it is to try and come from the back and catch up when you're a late start.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of scenario. Obviously, if P5P isn't enough, we can move into stronger drugs like Carbogyl and Dostinex, which are dopamine agonists. And then the other thing is estrogen. Now, it converts at a rate of 20% of test, so it isn't as much as test, but it does still convert to estrogen. So you just need to factor in that your estrogen levels are going to be slightly higher, and as a result, you are going to need more estrogen management. And then beyond that, the rest of it should be fairly steady, because it's not going to give you particularly high BP unless you don't manage the estrogen and therefore get water retention, but that will be a combination of the test and the DHEA together rather than just DHEA. DHEA on its own, like I say, has only 20% conversion rate. So actually it's quite a low aromatizing drug on its own. A lot of people get hung up with progesterone. Progesterone generally raises in a cycle scenario because you're creating stress. It's not particularly vain because of the drugs, and even if it does, what are you going to fucking do?
Yeah, I found just my experience with Nandrolone is that if you can control estrogen, you're less likely to have any other side effects than hormonally. That's the number one thing I've always done. Yeah? Tren as well. Yeah. Same with Tren.
Yeah, Tren has some issues in other areas, but, it's DHEA generally is not going to be hugely impacting on inflaming the body and that sort of thing. Obviously, it's quite supportive of collagen synthesis, so it can very often help with joints and support there as well. And for a drug that doesn't have a huge androgen level, it has a pretty good effect on strength too. Yeah. Which sort of defies its profile really, because you'd expect a high androgen to have good impact on strength, not a low androgen like DHEA is. But it does. But it does have a good binding affinity, which helps with it being a nandrolone.
Yeah. All right. I wonder if there's anything else we should cover on this topic. I guess at the end of the day, man, like I found out for myself, high DHEA did not work well for me. And that was just I had to run DECA to figure that out. And it is a matter of trial and error to determine where do you fit in, and that you discovered for yourself. DECA was great for you. On the other hand, I found EQ was great for me. So we're both examples of like doing the right thing, which was completely different for each of us.
Yeah, I mean, look, what the drugs do is completely predictable, all right? This is what the drugs do. They do it every time. They do it the same way every time. It doesn't change because you're unique and special.
Well, we may have different... Yeah.
What changes is your sensitivities to the effects of the drug. Nandrolones lower dopamine transport proteins.
Right.
Goes without saying. Okay, so they increase prolactin. They are estrogenic. They do convert to estrogen. That doesn't change in any person. It still does that thing. But the severity of the impact or the amount of change will vary depending on the environment, i.e. the person's, their sensitivities, how much aromatase they produce.
Yeah.
What are they like for dopamine levels in the first place? So, once you learn what the drug does, then when you go into experiment with a drug, which is basically what we're doing a lot of the time, because you don't know what it's going to do in you because you've not used it before, so you don't know how you're going to react to its effects.
Right.
At least you know where you're looking. You know what areas you need to watch. You know what areas you need to be concerned with, and you might just be super sensitive to it, And one of my big advantages around using gear, but also in a way a big disadvantage, was that I didn't really get problems with them.
Yeah.
I could tolerate them at high doses pretty well. So as a result, didn't stop me using high doses, where if I'd have felt or had major issues with side effects, it would have probably curbed my uses quite significantly because I'd be constantly having to deal with a problem. Didn't have that. Didn't have problems.
Yeah. So take your time, guys. We talked about your first 5 cycles in that last episode, which, Dave, you could take this information, apply it to that. I'd say try one at a time, see which works better for you. And Dave, by the way, that episode did not do well. Like, people didn't want to hear the first 5 cycles, I guess. Like, it wasn't bad. Like, we still had all of our normal listeners and everything, but like it didn't really like jump up or do anything special in the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah. If you don't put Tren in it, nobody wants to know.
Yeah. We can't win them all, I guess.
No.
But we did get a lot of nice comments. We got a lot of nice comments. People were happy that you were here. Why, hello! I wanted to do something different with my True Nutrition advertisement for today. And here's the thing, I just got our order in. Victoria and I, we pay for all the protein that we get. They don't send us anything for free. And that's because I've believed in True Nutrition for 15 years now. I've been using them ever since I contest prep. They have some of the cleanest, best quality protein. A lot of times I use the Team Skip, but here's the deal. I'm going back to the Pure Whey Isolate. The Pure Whey Isolate, it just processes so fast. This is my favorite flavor, chocolate peanut butter cup. But if you want to try just like 1 pound at a time, you can do that. Just sample it. I've never had the cookie butter, so I'm going to try the cookie butter this week. We got a big old bag of pea protein isolate. For the wife, this is what she likes to use. And here's the thing, they're just about wholesale prices at True Nutrition. Plus, they don't add the flavor in when they weigh it. So you get like legit 1 pound of protein, and then from there they add the flavor after that. So every 1 pound, I think it's like 1.2. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But hey, here's the thing, True Nutrition is a great quality protein. They believe in us. They advertise with us because I literally asked them to. And if you use our code THINK, you'll get some additional savings. Plus, of course, that's like voting for our podcast. So thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed my my impromptu ad. Goodbye.
Where's my t-shirt?
You're dropping logs?
The dropping log. You saw the logo. It was put in the Facebook page. Darth
I'm
Vader sat on a toilet saying dropping logs. That was
good.
Brilliant.
That was very good. All right. Well, listen, we've got a bunch of listener questions, and we try to make the content you guys want to hear. So comment below with your questions. And we have a bunch of new people too who found us through the Janoschik episode, or Janoschik, depending on where you're from.
Janoschik.
Yeah, Janoshik. So comment with your questions, plus comments, likes, all that stuff. It helps to boost our programming. And if you're new here, we'd love to have you along for everything we do. So hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. And there's a hype button now. I don't know about this hype button, Dave, but if you hit the hype button, if you see that hype button, hit that hype button because it'll definitely help to hype us up. All right. Jake.
I definitely need some serious hyping today.
You do, man. You look like you're still in your house coat. You look like you just woke up and it's halfway through your day.
You leave my fluffy alone.
So it looks like a house coat, Dave.
You leave my fluffy alone.
All right. Listen. So Jake, who's one of our longtime viewers, listeners, he comments on every episode. Thank you, Jake. He said, I've got a question for the next show. I want to do my first comp at the end of next year, and I imagine that I'll probably use Tren. As I haven't used it before, would it be worth running for 6 weeks at the end of this coming bulk to see how it affects me, mostly mental? I was thinking 50 milligrams Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of Tren Ace, so if that doesn't go well, it will clear out quickly when stopped. Cheers. Hey, Jake's with us right now. What's up, man?
You know what? I think because it's going to be your first introduction to the drug, introducing it 4 or 5 weeks out from a show, it could transform your physique. It could also break you. So it might be worth just having a dabble so you sort of get to understand what Tren can do.
Yeah. And, like, realistically, if he also doesn't, quote unquote, need Tren to compete. I think sometimes we get it in our heads that we need certain compounds. I've literally had 2 guys win pro cards without using Tren at that show, or ever, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very effective drug, but it is a costly one in a lot of ways for certain people, and none of this is necessary at the end of the day.
Yeah,
you don't need. There's a whole world of natural competitors who build good physiques and complete drug free. So we don't need them. Obviously, you get more extremes with the drugs from a point of view of size, though you don't seem to get extremes in condition. That does still seem to be very firmly rooted in the world of naturals for some reason.
You can get pretty freaking peeled, man, on gear.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying you can't, but I generally notice that the standard of condition within the naturals is better than it is within the assisted.
I think it can be, depending on the level.
On an average. Yeah. I feel it is.
You only have one card to play as a natural, and that's get in the best shape you can, because you're not going to outmuscle anybody. If, like, nobody is going to be massive.
Ooh, Scott said, "Oh, that is a skinny little shit."
Oh, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Oh,
yeah. But here's the thing. Like, I understand. Yeah. So if you take a PED, you're going to get that advantage. You don't have to take anything, but if you do, you're going to get an advantage. So there's that. I don't think that you necessarily need Tren to get that ultimate ripped, peeled look. I think that you can do the exact same thing without it. It would just take other compounds.
Yeah.
I do think it helps. I think it's a great tool. I think that you're going to get a lot out of it. It might even be easier to do with it.
Yeah.
But you don't have to.
No, not at all.
Yeah. All right. What about this one? Got, hey, Scott and Dave, any experience or knowledge around Ngenla GH, which is the long-lasting growth hormone supposedly dosed once a week, and if its benefits to run that, and what to expect, for example, same effects as genotropin, etc. Main reason my question is lack of access to genotropin serostim, but can get access to Pharma Ngenla 24 milligram pens. Love the channel. I have one client that's using it.
So I'm not that au fait on this. We did look at this several episodes ago.
I have one client that's using it now.
And I believe even the pharmaceutical research was concerned with insulin desensitization due to the long-acting GH. I think that was the major concern that had been brought forward through research, was what was going to happen with insulin sensitivity levels. Just because you've got this sustained elevated release of GH going on rather than the peaks and troughs that you would see through any other administration. Beyond that, I don't know anyone that's used it in the real world. You do, so I'm going to sit this one out and leave it up to you, sir.
Not a lot to report yet, man. He's been on it for a little while, but he, and I asked him this morning because I saw this question, and, I said, well, what do you think of this overall? Or what are you noticing out of it? And he was like, not much. So, and I think he's using 4 milligrams per week.
Is that just because the peak dosing's not getting there? Is it because he's just not creating a peak level with the steady release?
I'm not sure, man. I mean, he's using, so he could take it higher, but we're off cycle right now too, and he's been using, I believe it's 4 milligrams per week, which is not a schluppy dose of GH overall, and he already had been using, I think, 3 units of regular, 191 GH.
Because obviously with a regular GH, you get this high peak and then drop off, don't you? This is what you get.
Yeah.
So with the slow acting, you don't get that lofty peak. So I'm wondering if that's the difference in the driver. Because we see this in gear. A high peak does stimulate more anabolism, but it also stimulates more side effects, which is why we tend not to bother with it. So I'm just wondering if it's a similar situation with the GH.
Yeah. We'll probably take the dose higher, but so far we haven't seen any issues with insulin sensitivity or whatever. That's what he's doing. That's what I said.
Oh, I thought he was doing it and he stopped, and so he's still doing the fast acting as well.
Yeah, we added it on top of it. We haven't seen any kind of major changes in water retention or anything like that. He's actually doing his best ever. He held a lot of body fat, and it was one of those guys that long term, like no matter what, we just got to keep focusing on fat loss. You'll grow in the process, but we got him down to a keto diet, and now we finally have built him up to tolerating carbs really well. Had we had this many carbs in the plan initially, he would have just gotten fat. So he's doing well, and we're getting ready to go into his first like real off season where we can actually increase calories ever. We've been running it for a little while, but I'm not, as a coach, I'm not seeing anything different. When we add GH in, usually, or if we doubled the GH dose, normally I would say like, oh yeah, I see something, or I have a guy that gained 10 pounds in the last few weeks, switching GHs. He was on a GH at 4 IU, switched to another GH, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, my hands are feeling numb. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I wonder what his old GH was. Was it even good? But now he's up to, so like I'm not seeing anything weird like that. There's no symptom, side effects, no reflection on the scale. So I don't know, man. What about this one? Thoughts on test EQ in Primo for a bulk? Will it crash my E2 too much? Generally high estrogen, but with no sides. Thinking of starting a 20-week push phase with 300 tests, 150 EQ, 150 Primo, and slowly increasing as I go.
I think them two together is probably going to have the estrogen on the low side, yeah. Definitely at that dose. I think you need to be a little bit careful there. Plus, if you don't have issues with high E2, i.e. it doesn't cause you any problems, then why would you be worried about lowering it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not getting water retention and you're not having problems with body fat, I mean, high estrogen is supportive of a good lipid profile, so it's actually not a bad thing.
And it's going to benefit your growth to have a good amount of estrogen in your body versus crushing it.
Yeah, so I say, I be careful not to treat numbers. See this a lot. See a lot of people get blood work done, see results, and treat numbers without considering, well, actually, am I experiencing anything negative from that. Is that causing me any issues? And estrogen management is definitely one of those areas that people often treat numbers instead of looking at the whole picture of how they feel, how they're performing, what else is going on. If your E2 is a bit high, but you feel great, everything's working downstairs, you're making good progress, why change it? Just leave it.
Yeah. Now, the only time I would is if we were dieting and his estrogen was real high. Let's say that, like, on the scale of, whatever, up to 40, he's at 110, but he didn't have any symptoms at all. Like, he's like, I feel fine. And we're dieting, then I would definitely bring it down, a little bit. I'd just take the edge off, but I'd still be okay with keeping it out of range.
What if he's dieting and fat loss is absolutely textbook? Would you still bring it down? Would you leave it then until you saw an issue with it?
I might still bring it down a little.
Okay.
Yeah, I might still bring it down a little bit. I wouldn't crush it. Let's say he's using 500 test and his estrogen is at 100 and 40 is the top end of range. We'll say it's 110 and 40 is the top end of range. I might end up saying, but no symptoms. I might say, hey, let's just start 0.25 milligrams of Arimidex twice a week and see what happens. Maybe we're going to see a little bit of water retention drop. Maybe the next week he checks in and it's a faster drop. And then I'll know, oh, yeah, so he was holding a little bit more water than he had been. And I know that that's not enough to crush him. He's probably still like 70, or something like that.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering.
All right. What else do we have here, Dave? We're doing good, man. We're getting through a lot of these. Can you please explain DHEA to 7 keto DHEA, like 25 milligrams of DHEA versus 100 milligrams of 7 keto? Do you have any experience with those, with 7 keto DHEA?
None.
It's not that good from what I recall. Do you remember when it got real popular for a minute? Probably like 10 years ago. Like all of a sudden people are like, ooh, 7 keto DHEA. I believe it's like a synthetic derivative of DHEA. It does not so DHEA is a precursor to estrone and testosterone, and 7 keto does not turn into it's not a precursor, so you're not going to get the same benefits out of it. That would be my thought.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, DHEA is very useful for females for bringing up adrenal testosterone production if they've got low of area intake.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 7 keto was like marketed as a fat loss agent. I don't think I've never seen it being super beneficial. I've worked with people who ran it and I couldn't tell the difference. Here's a training question for you, Dave. Ooh. Last blood work came back with ALT and AST at 80. So our range is more like down to 30.
Yeah.
And I have heard of other trainers say that ALT, AST is a reflection of training volume, and creatinine is related to training intensity. No. And his creatinine was up too. Says, what are your thoughts? And I never heard that intensity aspect.
No, it's not intensity based. ALT is present in muscle tissue. So it's released when you exercise. Volume, or you can train high volume, you can train intensely. Whether there's a significant difference between the ALT released by either format, I have no fucking idea, and I don't think it's ever been studied. There are a few studies on the elevation of ALT from exercise, definitely, and general liver markers in general being adulterated through exercise, but I don't think there's anything specific around intensity versus volume. But yeah, two reasons ALT go up. ALT goes up because it's released from muscle tissue.
And because you're
AST, yes, AST tends to go up if you fart or look in the wrong direction. It's a bit of a shit liver marker, to be honest. It really is. It'll go up for anything. But ALT will also go up because your liver is processing the waste that you have produced from exercise.
Yeah.
Now, I would see a mechanism of action here that if it was intense, there would potentially be more waste over voluminous training. So I could see that being a potential to increase ALT slightly more. Creatinine will elevate through high protein, dehydration, and exercise. The more muscle you have, the more creatinine you'll have, which is why traditionally, when you look at an Afro-Caribbean blood and you do the creatinine EGFR calculation, you actually times the EGFR result by 1.2, because Afro-Caribbeans have naturally more creatinine in their bodies and therefore is naturally elevated in the first instance. Anyway, again, yes, the more intense the exercise, I would argue that you are likely to see a potentially greater creatinine reading. But I wouldn't have said there's a specific difference between volume and creatinine. Like creatinine will still elevate with volume training as well. It's not like it doesn't change with volume and only changes with intensity. That's absolute bollocks. It will change with either, but whatever training causes the most stress on the muscle, therefore is going to cause the greatest amount of creatinine release.
I'm with you on that. And I would say this, we did an episode, What Your Doctor Doesn't Know About Your Labs as a Bodybuilder, something like that with Scott Stevenson. I should find that and link it in the show, because he explained all the basic things that bodybuilders are going to see that are off in their labs. Since ALT and AST, things like this are going to, and your kidney values are going to be off a lot of times, we're looking for a trend. So it may be off a little, but it's consistently off. It's not continuing to rise. Like if his liver values are at 80 and then next time they're at 100 and next time they're at 110, then it's like, well, let's look at that. But, if they're 80 now and then they're 40 next time and then 80 the next time and 40 the next time, I think he's all right.
You've also got to be consistent with or very aware of when did you train in relation to the test.
I've heard 72 hours is the best.
Roughly. Yeah. Or more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you trained, say you went to the gym 7 a.m. and then took a blood test at 9 a.m., you would probably come back as having kidney failure.
Okay.
You'd probably be in the 40s in EGFR or low 50s, but quite easily, if you train with any level of intensity or have any level of muscle, you'll probably be in the 40s. So it can be significantly adulterated of results. Generally speaking, if you're a trained individual, having trained within 48 hours of the test, and the general cut for EGFR is 60 anyway, and I would still work on that. So if it's below 60, I'd be saying, right, retest, either go cystatin C or...
so if that'll give you a different reading, right? So a more accurate reading, cystatin C, right?
Yeah. I'd either
you
go
guys see that one?
Cystatin C. Yeah, we do. Yeah, I'd either go cystatin C or I'd do a 4-day rest and retest kidneys. Creatinine is a bit of a crap marker for kidney function, but it's cheap, it's readily available, and in a non-trained populace, it obviously is quite reasonable for detecting early signs of kidney problems. But in a trained market, it does sort of become a bit useless. So you just got to use a bit of common sense.
Yeah. Just a great comment here from DGP Holy Hand Grenade. He says, because we were talking about how the villainization of AIs. He said, I think a lot of the demonization comes from, a few studies that looked at postmenopausal women with breast cancer, where their estrogen was crashed long term. This is a standard care. This is a standard of care for stopping estrogen feeding cancers. That said, 100% of the sides seem to be effects of low estrogen, which had been really hard for some people to grasp. The AI in pharmacology, the AI doesn't cause the sides such as brain damage, cholesterol issues, cardiac issues, etc. They just crashed E2 and maintained that crash long term in those studies that found the issues. Controlled E2 within normal physiological levels doesn't seem to cause any of those issues, or the issues of the issues are minimized because you're keeping your E2 around the normal physiological level, just out of range to the higher your test goes. Thus far, nobody I've engaged with online has pointed to a single issue or study that shows a symptom that isn't just a symptom of low E2. Primo Mast EQ to control E2 seems to almost counterproductive since you have all of the sides of the compound plus the possibility of unreliably controlled E2, crashed E2, and you're getting the sides of low estrogen. So basically, everything
the problem
that
is
we
not
agree
the
with.
mechanism. The problem is the result.
Yes. Thank you. It was a very well stated statement.
It was,
and
I appreciate the contribution.
yeah.
Said it much better than we would have done.
Right. General steroid question, guys, and I'm sure one that has been asked before. Why have no new AAS been invented for so long? Is it the equipment required is so advanced that it requires too much corporation and pharma funding? I would have figured the science was well established and a decent UGL would be able to. I don't know. Another carbon atom to a Nandrolone molecule or some shit.
Right, so let's just, your typical UGL is a individual or a small group of usually a couple, 2, 3 individuals
With a P.O. box.
in a building or a shed or a garage or a shipping container with a very minimal amount of equipment, and it is a very minimal amount of equipment, following a weights and measures recipe.
Yeah.
That's your lab. That's the technicality of it. They may get technical because they use more sophisticated equipment from a point of view of automation, but the actual science element of it's raw powder, X amount of that, X amount of benzoyl, X amount of that, carrier oil, stick it together, filter it, shove it in a vial and flog it. Obviously, development of drugs and changing atoms and all that is quite sophisticated. The reason science hasn't done anything with it is because why? Drugs are developed to make money, primarily.
Yeah.
And secondly, to treat illnesses, but primarily to make money.
I feel like
let's be
Janoshik is
realistic.
doing pretty good. Why don't we get him to buy the machines and make something new? He could do it. He's making good cash.
Yeah, but, the pharma industry, and it is an industry, it is a business, and you've got to remember that. They'll look at developing drugs for illnesses if there's enough people with the illness because it's financially viable for them. Drug development costs billions.
Yeah, they got a lot of bigger fish that they want to fry and make money off of at this point.
It takes
making
years.
you a new version of Primo Bolin.
Exactly. It takes years. You've not only got to develop the compound, then you've got to go through clinical studies, you've got to go through animal studies, then you've got to go through human studies, then you've got to go for large population trials before it even hits the market. So, the pharma industry, when it comes to drugs that we'd be interested in, particularly for muscle building, probably the golden drug at the moment is some form of reliable and controllable myostatin inhibitor.
Yeah, if they could do that.
That's $1 billion drug. Well, it's $1 trillion drug, to be fair. There are companies working on it. They are trying to develop something. And their goal is muscle wastage conditions, muscle wastage diseases.
Yeah.
Things like AIDS as an old-fashioned one, really, I suppose, these days.
Dude, they even wanted to run a test recently with muscle wasting from using GLP meds.
Right, okay, yeah. So that's a massive market for pharma to look at, which is why certain companies are investing the millions and millions of dollars it takes to try and develop a drug. So I think if you see any development in size-gaining drugs, you're going to see it on one of two levels. You're either going to see it in myostatin suppression, or you're going to see it in gene manipulation, which I think is the other way that they are looking.
I could see that.
And I think they will be the next two jumps, with myostatin inhibition probably being the first, and then gene manipulation coming maybe a decade or so later. I'm not quite sure where they are with it, but I believe they are a lot further on than we probably realise. Yeah. But, anabolics, there's every compound currently needed for human health problems, because that's what drives the
Well,
pharma
they
industry,
tried.
not
SARMs, right?
steroid users.
They
Yeah.
tried. SARMs
Yeah.
were not that long ago. That was
No.
fairly recent time, and none of that proved to be successful the way they wanted to be able to create something that was like an anabolic steroid but didn't have side effects, and it was only going to attach to the
non-suppressive,
androgen
tissue
receptor.
specific. Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
found out that wasn't the case.
Yeah, every SARM failed. And that's the irony of people jumping on SARMs and research drugs, is the SARMs that are available in the marketplace are old, failed science experiments.
And here's a thought too. I'd be happy with them just getting back to making all the stuff they already have. Like let's get back to making the normal stuff before if we can fill that quote first.
Can we have a good Pharma Deca, please, and a good Pharma Parabol, and a good
Yeah, just make good ones of those first, and I'd be happy. All right, how about this one? He says that it's a time-sensitive question. Fighting Father Time is his name. Question for an upcoming show, hopefully soon. I'm 3.5 weeks out from my local show, and I've been running 1 milligram of Reta. Transition from 7.5 weekly. Yeah, I know that's a lot, but really no sides. I can't believe he had no sides at 7.5 milligrams of Reta. That's a lot. I am planning on cutting it 2 weeks out. And I've come in early, 5.5% body fat on DEXA at 5 weeks out, and probably deserve some amount of suffering to improve gastric emptying. What are your thoughts? Too early, not early enough, or just right? Note that Google tells me the median time to maximum concentration of Reta is between 12 and 49 hours after a subcutaneous dose. Reta is designed as a once weekly injection enabled by its long half-life of approximately 6 days. That in itself is a big topic right now. People are talking about, you're not going to get the complete benefits of Reta if you're doing small daily injections of it. You're not getting that big bolus effect. And yeah, so that's a whole other topic. But yeah, so cutting this out, realistically, he's only on 2 now. I wonder if he's dealing. My thought would be, does he have gastric issues? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it still? Because he said he had no sides at 7.5. I assume
that's the point.
Even less sides at a fraction of that on 2.
I don't see any particular reason to get rid of it unless it's causing some form of stomach distension through transit being slow and things being literally backed up. I don't see why you would need to get it out. It's just, if you're comfortable where you are, you're holding a flat stomach, then you could taper it down a bit more if you wanted to, but I don't see any reason for drastically getting rid of it. On a side note, Reta, see more and more people reporting anxiety.
Really?
Are you seeing anything like that? Yeah, quite a few actually. Not crippling, but definitely present.
Not one.
Oh,
And I've been using it, I call it long term now. I'd
what
say
sort of doses?
2 milligrams.
Right. These are generally at the higher end. So 7.5. But even a couple of people that have just done 2 milligrams and said, no, I've felt the anxiety of it.
I haven't heard anything like that from either clients that I work with or listeners of the show. I guess let's ask our listeners too. Have they heard anything about this?
I'm seeing enough for it to be like this is definitely a trend. It's not just a couple of people that are a bit, sensitive.
Yeah.
In fact, one person that was reported isn't sensitive in the slightest. In that essence, he's generally very mentally robust. So I was quite surprised when he said, I've been getting a little bit of anxiety, which he said.
I just really wonder what else is going on in his life. Because to me, that would kind of be like, hey, I'm getting anxiety from using insulin or metformin.
No, that's what I'm saying. He in particular, I know, is particularly stable, very much in control. That's why he. And then I've had a few other people say the same. I've had a few people question Does this cause some mild anxiety? Because I feel like my anxiety's increased slightly. And like I say, yeah, you've got to watch the person and the environment and everything else that comes with it. And it's very easy to go, it's a drug when it's not. It's just circumstances. But it's been enough people for me to start to go, hang on a minute.
Okay. Yeah, let us know, guys. I'd be curious to hear what you have to say. And hey, on that note of this big topic that everybody seems to need to weigh in on now is, should you split your dose up versus take it once per week and all that? Here's been my experience. I initially started with twice a week. Every other day shots. And then I went down to 2 times a week. And then talking to Victoria about it, because she brought that idea up, and this was back in April, May, about how, because you're not getting the high peak, that you may not be getting the full effect from it. And then since then, there's been people talking about that it's just the drug isn't going to work properly, or you're eventually it's going to not work as well if you continue using it more frequently. So I went to once a week, and the only difference I noticed was that it seemed to wear off faster. It seemed to wear off by the end of the week. I had a strong appetite blunting effect first few days, and then the last few days, my hunger would greatly increase. Dave.
No, sorry, about day 5, from what I've similar people say by about day 5, it's bollocks. And unfortunately, most people take it on a Monday, so when they really need it, which is the weekend, they're fucking not getting much off it anymore.
So I've experimented with every other day, 2 times a week, and once a week. I would say that 2 times a week for me is fine, and that way I don't have to remember to take it more frequently. But I don't see a problem. I would say figure it out for yourself, guys. Like, see what works for you. I think sometimes, man, with stuff on social media, there's we just come up with these ideas that we're trying to throw out there, like everything you've been doing is wrong. You need
and
to stop.
quite literally, it is some idiot sat in front of a camera and with a mic in front of them like this and going,
Yeah, like us, idiots like us.
Yeah, what can I say that makes me stand out? With no real background of what they're talking about. Just, well, everyone says, yeah, I'll say this because it's different and it'll get me noticed. And it's like, there's nothing behind it. You just,
Yeah, well, the guy who said this stuff initially, this Trevor guy, he's CrossFit guy, right? And I've actually followed him for a long time.
What? You follow a CrossFitter?
Yeah. So he's really great with mobility exercise.
You're not talking, you're just moving your lips. And you might as well just be moving your fucking lips. You dirty animal!
Oh, Dave.
Unclean!
Hear me out. Put your headphones back.
I want to hear it now. Dirty!
Hear me out, Dave. So he's really good with mobility stuff, right? You got a shoulder issue. He has a huge library of great videos that I have suggested to clients for years now. Then I don't know if like maybe he just did all the stuff he could do with those movements, but then he started seeing himself. He started doing he changed his videos because I subscribed to him. He changed his videos, and then they were like these how can I put it, Dave? They're like, I'm going to give you like a mentorship type thing. Like we're going to talk about like how to live your life and shit like that. And I don't think that those videos did really well. So then he started becoming a peptide expert. And now all of a sudden he's making these bold claims about peptides and he's presenting, it's a rebranding. It's a YouTube rebranding is what it is.
Yeah,
I like the guy a lot.
It.
Great mobility stuff, and a lot of my clients have been helped by him and his ideas over the years, and helped me to really understand. Like when I tore my supraspinatus, his stuff helped a lot. That said, I don't think he's an expert. Trevor, if you're watching, come on, bro, you're not an expert on Retatrutide, please.
Yeah, I mean, I had a message yesterday from the girl who does my socials with a list of videos she wants, and there's stuff on there that's deliberately controversial because she knows it will get traction, and it's like,
yeah,
I'm not ready to sell my soul yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not just creating friction for the sake of it. But
Right.
it sells, it gets traction, it gets money in the bank, and that's why people do it.
All right. Anyway, hey, Scott and Dave, any experience or not? Oh, that was the Ngenla question. I guess I screen capped that twice. Scott, you need ink. Get sleeves.
You are very pasty white, sir, in a pale, non-decorative format.
Should I get decorated up? Get sleeved out?
Yeah, I'll do some designs for you.
Okay. Hey, you're a good you're a good artist. You do good at drawing.
Yeah.
You gonna take your time, really craft something nice for me?
Right. So the deal is you can't look at it till it's finished being tattooed.
I don't know if I trust you on that one, Dave.
I wouldn't. No, I couldn't do it for something that was permanent. I'm not that cruel.
Regarding
I might
GH,
build in something small into
something
the,
small that only you know about, and then you point it out to me and be like, "There's a dick right here."
Yeah. Well, I was thinking a pair of dog's bollocks, but yeah, you pretty much get it.
Regards GH, I take 4 IUs a night. He's late 40s, is generic. Compared to Pharma grade, what is the equivalent of this? 2.5 IUs? Should I up the dose? I think it depends on the GH.
It's difficult. Yeah, it depends. I mean, there's some pretty decent generic GHs out there, but I would have said, what would you say? Genuine's probably half the dose
Genuine
on average. Yeah.
No, I don't know. I've seen some incredibly well dosed underground GH. Like I'd say that some of it. In fact, now I'm going to go back here to the it might have been 2011. Bill Llewellyn did the underground anabolics guide. Do you remember that?
Well, there's what 13 of 14.
Well, he has the anabolics reference guide, but then he did one of just underground labs, and he tested all the brands. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And in the GH section, he tested hydrotropin, which is like a generic. I know they tell you like, oh, it's used in Chinese pharmacies or Chinese hospitals.
The original Hyge was quite good, actually. The original one, the green box, that was pretty good.
It tested out as being more pure than some of the pharmas that he tested. And I've seen Keith from Parabolic had shown me some labs that were done on Pharma that was not quite as great as you might think. Like, it wasn't bad, but it compared to with everything we're doing with testing now on some of these batches of underground GH, like, there's some pretty clean stuff out there, man. High dose.
I used to like Ansinum. Ansinum was brilliant until they stopped selling it.
I didn't know they weren't around now. I thought they...
No, they're still around. They just stopped selling to the public, which was a right twat.
Okay.
Because you used to just email them and say, I want some, and order it, and they'd send it you. It's fucking brilliant.
Is HGH and insulin really needed to compete for a 60-plus-year-old classic physique amateur athlete? I'm looking to compete in Masters Nationals July 26. Frank Zane never used it.
No. I think Lots never used it in that era. No, not at all. No, Frank wasn't renowned for his large, bulbous muscles, was he?
There is that. I mean, he was incredible.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He had a credible physique, but it was much slighter than his compadres. No, you don't. There's plenty of people who built decent muscle mass and presented good physiques without insulin and GH. It is not a requirement. People think it is. And these days it's almost become like the standard now is I'm gonna start going to the gym, so I've ordered my cycle, my GH, my Slim, my metformin, my telosmartin, I've got my 100 micrograms of T4, and it's like, fuck, get to the gym first.
Yeah, I'll say this as far as dieting goes, like insulin and GH I wouldn't consider to be heavy movers for getting into contest shape. In fact, they're much like in addition compounds, I do think there could be some great benefits to them, though. I think they can be great, but do you absolutely need it? No. There's plenty of people that don't use either, and there's plenty of people that will be at that show that aren't using either.
Yeah. I mean, I could see GH, and as Tina's just said, I could see GH and an older competitor being beneficial in other areas as well, not just in condition, but in just general well-being and feeling okay.
Yeah.
By the way, do you know anyone that's dieting using insulin these days? There was a little bit of a fad for it for a short period, wasn't there?
Yeah, I still have a lot of my guys are using insulin
through a cut.
Yeah,
for the cut, such as lower BG and force better fat.
Well, we're using it for driving carbs into the muscle around training.
No, yeah, but there was also the, if you use insulin, it'll lower blood glucose levels, forcing more fat metabolism.
Yeah, so there is that. Scott Stevenson went into that at one point. I believe that stress hormones may go up in that process too.
Right. I just wondered if there was anyone, because I haven't heard anything of that for a while, so I was just curious.
Andrew Barry has talked about it more recently. He's still up for that. Here would be the one place. So you're talking about like fasted cardio with insulin.
Stuff like that, yeah.
I know that I remember Jordan Peters talking about it on Muscle Minds years back. The place I could see it being beneficial is if you had a massive cheat meal the night before and you're waking up to do your fasted cardio, but your blood sugar is still super high. You could knock it down faster with that. That's where I'd use it. But for the most part, if you already have low blood sugar, that it would be like an as needed situation, If you already had low blood sugar, then there's no need. Nice comment here. I'm always bored when doing cardio, except for when a new podcast from you guys. A D-ball episode would be cool. Appreciate it, guys. Should we do another D-ball episode, Dave?
On one condition.
What's that condition?
You dress up as a D-ball.
How do you do that? Like, what does that look like?
You a big tablet costume on, just a face sticking out the tablet.
Could it be? Do you remember the blue heart?
Scott Pharma D-ball around the edge of it, yeah.
Do you remember the blue heart D-ball?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. I could just get like a big blue heart costume. That'd be cool. Watch the podcast every night after work. I finally have a question. Since March, I've been on various mini cycles. Started with 225 test-E and 300 mast prop for 8 weeks. Dropped the prop and just did 350 test for another 8 weeks. Then dropped to 250 test for 8 weeks. Now I'm on 200 test and 140 mast E with 3 milligrams of Reta for the past 5 weeks. I am a TRT user since the age of 32. I'm 36 now. What would be the best course of action for me going forward? I want to get as lean as I can, but not lose size.
Go back on TRT. You've been on 29 weeks.
Yeah, that's a start, I think. Take a break.
Yeah, it's 6 months.
Yeah, retool.
I lost my glasses yesterday.
Yeah?
Yeah, these are my reserve ones.
Do they work as good?
No.
No? I got these glasses. These are mine.
I dropped them in the water yesterday.
Oh, like off the boat? Wait, you were telling me how you had to work and work and work yesterday and do all this driving.
I had to go. I did because I had to work in the morning, then drive down to the boat to clear it out, then drive back and then work.
Oh, okay.
Right. See, you were gonna try and be sly then and go. You were down.
You did something fun. You were out on the boat lollygagging.
No,
I know
you were.
You were just sun tanning, hanging out and laughing.
Oh, it goes up. It's gone up for sale.
Wait, what?
It's gone up for sale.
You're selling your boat?
Yes.
What?
Long story.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you have to tell me that at some point. I'm with you, though. The guy should probably take a break, man. retool. He could still do everything he needs to. Yeah, maybe retool, hold weight. You could still tighten up a little bit. Don't diet hard during an 8-week break. Plan your next cycle from there. And keep in mind, he's afraid of losing muscle mass. If you have your testosterone supported and your diet is good, you've set your diet up so that protein is high, you're losing 1 pound per week, 2 pounds per week, it's going to be a real long time before you have to worry about losing muscle.
I agree.
Scott and Dave Day is the best day. That's another comment from Bob. All right, a couple more.
It's Dave and Scott Day.
Oh, we're about out of time here. I didn't realize that. Scar tissue. Guy had rotator cuff surgery, ran a bunch of gear. Doctor pulled out a brick of scar tissue a couple years later. Can you talk about scar tissue and anabolics? This dude, Eric Marchowitz, he was a developer of some of the 7 keto pro hormones that were popular. He was the guy who made them. He lives near me. We had talked about this years back. He was like, man, a lot of these girls, they end up getting acne on cycle and they're all running Anavar. And then their face gets all scarred up because the Anavar is sending increased collagen as it repairs. And I was like, that's an interesting theory. I remember him saying that.
The scar tissue, I mean, the main thing is breakdown. So deep tissue work, it'll break it down.
Yeah.
I don't really know much else you can do. You can get calcification from frequent site use as well. So that's another thing that needs dispersing and breaking down.
You'd have to be careful post-surgery. You can get increased thickness of your scars with growth hormone.
You can. The other thing would be stretching as well, but that should be part of your rehab program. I think when people skimp a little bit on the stretching side of rehab, that I generally find they end up with slightly more scar tissue than those that go through the program and make sure they're stretching out, make sure they're working the area.
All right. We've got one more here. This is from Patreon. He says, question for drugs and stuff. And I understand if this isn't something you and Dave want to cover for the purposes of testing, what is the average clearance time needed for common steroids to not receive a positive test?
Depends on the steroid, depends on the half-life, depends on the environment. It's something I don't like getting involved in, not because of the moral side of it, though I do sort of think that, come on, there's plenty of stuff you can do that you can use gear for. Why compete in an area where you can't? But I also appreciate that usage is quite widespread as well, so it's one of them things.
And there's also untested events that are not necessarily natural, where it's more of an IQ test than anything else.
Now, having said all that, the reason I'm reluctant is more from a case of I wouldn't want to give the wrong advice as some fucker fail the frigging test.
Yeah.
My understanding is fast actors 6 weeks-ish. Slow esters 3 months plus, depending on the compound. Deca is notoriously long-lasting, so is Tren.
It's like 18. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be.
Oh, Tren is long?
Yeah. Tren metabolites seem to be now fucking indestructible. But yes, and obviously your environment, as in things like body fat, stuff like that. Did you know? There you go. This was something I learned when I used to do the military work. So what they used to get, lads used to go home on leave, and smoking cannabis in the military is a big no-no in the UK military, right? You get caught smoking cannabis, you're gone. You're out. You're kicked out.
Really? They fire you?
Yeah, and they test you for it as well.
Wow.
So lads would go home for leave, right? And if they had a bit of brain cells about them, they'd go home for leave. They'd obviously eat loads of shit and put weight on. They'd smoke a bit of cannabis at the beginning of the leave, so it had cleared their system by the time they got back and got a piss test as they walked through the door.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much the standard thing. Lads coming back at leave, right, down a CDT, get piss tested. So what they cottoned on was that cannabis will actually sit in fat cells.
Right?
So what they realised was that if we test these fuckers 2 weeks later when they're back doing PT and eating a diet and they're losing body fat that they've gained on their leave,
they may pop then, huh?
It may release the cannabis back into the system. So guys were getting caught 2 weeks later having positive done negative 2 weeks before because of the release of the cannabis back into the system.
Yeah.
And I don't mean as in getting stoned. I just mean the metabolites, the detectable bits.
Right. Yeah, that's wild, man. Yeah, I've worked with people who've had to worry about testing a few times, but it's not something I really get into. And there are things you can do, like you were saying, to try to clear things faster. But yeah,
I don't know enough about it, to be honest, to advise on it.
I think that's fair enough.
Roy in the messages, whatever, do not come on this show casting dispersions and telling stories and lies like that. I did not smile.
Yeah, there he is. Roy, he says, saw Dave at PCA British where I was competing, and he actually cracked a smile for once. Huh, how about that?
No, I didn't. It's a lie. I didn't.
Dave, you feel better now that we did the show at least? Like, you had a rough day, but at least you got to hang out with your buddy for an hour, you know, and like have a real good time. You feel better now?
Yeah, amazing. Way, whoop-de-doo.
You gonna get change out of your house coat tomorrow? Maybe? Gonna, like, you know, put on regular people clothes and stuff?
No. I'm going to shove a daisy up my ass and trollop naked through my garden singing.
I got a question for you.
Oh,
So I texted this to you. I was watching Slow Horse, which is a great freaking show, by the way. I want Dave to watch it.
It's about horses that don't run very quickly and are slightly mentally challenged.
It's about MI5 and these rejects from MI5 who are really the people who end up saving the day. Anyway, the guy who's like the whole first desk at MI5, this crazy stuff goes down. All of their systems get shut down. All the power goes out. MI5 is like blacked out, right? And he says, well, fuck my giddy aunt. And I texted Dave and I said, Dave, is that a saying in the UK? And you said, it is.
Yeah.
What the hell where's that come from?
I haven't got a clue. We have lots of weird sayings, particularly local ones that don't make a lot of sense, but sound all right. I haven't got a clue where that came.
What's a local one that you have that's weird?
Oh, you're asking me braid to work.
Oh, they called that an Easter egg.
I can't honestly remember, mate. I'll have to. I'll do it. Try and think of something. My brain's just gone completely blank.
Did you guys catch the Easter egg at the end where Waylon said, "Oh my fuck, my giddy aunt"? I don't know.
Why is that an Easter? I don't I've never understood this Easter egg thing.
I don't know what it's a reference to something else.
But I don't get it. I'm probably being extremely thick, but I don't get it. I'm sure one of our knowledgeable listeners will be able to explain to us pair of
the term
stupid
Easter
old
egg.
farts.
Easter egg's
it's
like
a chocolate item you eat at Easter.
Yes, it is. It's also
Right,
something that you have to find, right? So you're not going to catch it.
No,
it's like a little hidden. It's a little hidden gem, Dave. You're
They're
supposed
on the
to
shelves
find
in the supermarket. I don't have to
No,
find them.
the Easter
Bunny.
Bunny-
There, I can see them.
The Easter Bunny brings them to you, and you have to.
The Easter
find
Bunny is
them.
dead. I ran him over.
Dave, this is what I deal with every week. Dave, what are you going to do with your car parts?
Put them on my car.
Are you going to do that now? Like, are you going to get to it now? I'm worried about you. That's all. I want you to, do
tired.
something for yourself.
I want to go sleep.
All right. Do you have any advice for us?
Yeah, sleep. It's highly rated and get as much as you can.
Well, with that said, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Go to evalbloodanalysis.com. and get your labs done by Dave. Go to supplementsource.ca for Canadians and truenutrition.com. Use our code THINK over there and get 10% off of all your orders. Strom Sports Nutrition, of course, thank you to everybody from Patreon. And check out the shirts. We've got tank tops now at the merch store. So, for another episode of the podcast with Dave Crosland, we'll see you soon. Thanks, Dave. All right, guys. So a bunch of you had asked for tank tops. So the day has finally come that we've got them. If you're interested in one of our tanks, check them out at the merch store. I'll have links below. Who knows? You might end up meeting somebody else that listens to the shows too. I've had that happen more than once. Somebody's like, hey, you listen to that podcast? I like those guys too. And before you know it, there's a budding bromance just waiting to happen. So if you want to look freaking jacked and support the podcast, you guys can do that all at the same time. Just check out the shirts.